And we're live. Good afternoon. Today is the last day of our five-part series. We're talking about new credit, the difference between hard inquiries and soft inquiries. And let's get started. All right, I do have comments up. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw them out there. Any comments, I will try my best not to ignore you. This is the last of our five-part series. We've gone through all what makes up your FICO score and how that affects each other and each account. As we've gone through each one of these series the past 5 weeks, you realize that it's not just a simple credit is super easy. Everything is intertwined and everything affects itself. So let's start out by talking about the difference between a soft inquiry and a hard inquiry. Hard inquiries is when you give permission to a creditor to look at your report to create a new account. And so, like when you go car shopping, is the most frequently described one because it used to be more in the past that a car dealership would hit multiple times as they shopped you around for the best rate. Now they've got some systems in place that if it all stays within the same 24-hour period, it only affects you a lot less than it used to. But this goes the same for certain credit cards, for mortgages, for home refinancing, for any personal loans you may get. Anytime a creditor looks at your report to either give you a rate or when you're asking about opening an account, they're going to pull a hard pull on your credit. And what that does is it notifies all three credit bureaus that you're trying to get a new account. This is not a big deal if you're only doing it once or twice or every so often, but when you have a condensed amount of new inquiries in a short period of time, it can throw up flags because it makes those looking at your report think, hey, are they having some financial issues? Are they trying to overextend themselves in a way that is going to lead down to some financial troubles? Now, soft inquiries is something that happens sometimes when, like, you get a new job. An employer may take a look just to see if what is on your credit report as far as addresses, your name, birth date, all those things match what you put on your application. They want to make sure that you're telling the truth. Some of them will look at your credit scores and what's on your credit reports to see how trustworthy you are and how if your life is in order. Not all businesses or employees are going to pull this up, but that's just an example of what a soft inquiry is. When we have a new client, we do sign up for credit monitoring, and that's something that must be going on a monthly basis for us to know how to respond to the credit bureaus and to keep track of everything. But when you request through a third party for your credit reports on credit monitoring software, that also is a form of the soft credit pull. And those soft pulls are not going to affect your credit nearly like the hard pulls were. In fact, they don't affect them at all. And they don't even show up on the credit reports. The hard ones will, and they stay on there for 2 years. And as we have gone through and gone through this whole process, we've in more depth explained that. So I'm not going to get too deep into it, but just know as time progresses for that 25-month period in which they stay on your report, the value of those slowly gets less and less. So if you apply for something today, it's weighted quite a bit, but 15 months from now, it's not going to be weighted that much at all, and it's barely going to affect your score. Now, and FICO does it, again. There's 20 different FICO scores. So, which one? We're talking mainly about FICO 8. That's generally what we go off of. So most of the things that we're talking about in this series are covered by that. The 300 to 850 credit score is specific to that scoring system. which is also important to define when you're looking at it. If you're looking at many different apps, you need to know if you're looking through a Vantage score or a FICO score. You need to know how those scores are comprised so that when you go to sit down at the table, if you want to buy a car, if you want to buy a home, and you're thinking you've got a 675 or a 700, and then they tell you you've got a 640 or a 650, that you're not surprised, that you understand, well, they're using a different scoring system that I've been using, and what I've been using is more of a guide that lenders don't even go off of. Now, the way that new credit is impacted, and how it impacts your FICO score is it does make up the remaining 10% of your score. Those inquiries generally last for 12 months. They do stay on your report for that 25-month period. We say 2 years, but it's on the 25th month, so that it's on there for a full 24 months. So on that 25th month is when it actually does fall off. It's supposed to automatically fall off. I have seen several reports lately that they've been on there longer than 25 months. And then we send a letter to let them know of that so that they remove it, and they have to because it's not supposed to even be there at that point. Some things you need to think about as you're opening new accounts, as you're pulling these hard inquiries, and as you're looking for something. If you're needing to add to your credit card portfolio, do it with intent. Don't just start signing up for multiple things at one time. When you have multiple hits in a rapid amount of time in that condensed time period, that's going to throw up the flags that may not affect you too much. It's going to start to drop your score. But if you have to make a bigger purchase, if you need to get a bigger loan 3, 4, 5, even 6 months down the road, when they do go look at your credit report and they see all these pulls happening at one time, it's going to affect their decision making, and it can hurt you. Overall, with this only being 10% or 55 points of your total score, these inquiries have a small impact. It's not something that's going to make or break your score. Most of the times, many of these types of inquiries are just completely ignored. But it does allow you or show that there could be a potential for rate shopping among lenders. But if you're going to apply for something like a credit card, you shouldn't be doing so hoping you get it. You should make an application knowing you're going to get it, by just knowing the prerequisites. And yes, you may get denied. There's never a guarantee, but you do need to know what the prerequisites are and make sure that you're meeting those. It could be an income prerequisite. It could be a credit score prerequisite. It could be a length of accounts that you have in Otherwood. Sometimes, let's say Capital One, for instance, if you've had an account with them and you've had it in good standing for multiple years, they may give you an additional account. It's a totally different card, totally different set, guidelines. Everything could be different. And they may not even pull a new credit report because you've got already consistent payment schedules through your existing account. So they already have a good record of knowing what kind of a person that you are and how you're going to treat that account. Now, new credit can lower all your FICO scores. And the way that is best described this, especially when we go over the length of your history and credit utilization, is the length of history. Let's say you have 3 accounts and they're 10, 7, and 3. 10, 7, and 3 added together is 20, divided by 3 is the average length of your credit history. So if you add a new account and now it's 10, 7, 3, and 0, you went from just under 7 years annually down to 5 years average among all 4 accounts now instead of 3. So if you go and you add 3, 4, 5, 6 different accounts all at one time, then that average length of history is going to go from something that could be 5, 6, 7, even 10 years and drop it way down into 1, 2, or 3 year range. And that's going to drop your score. So as you make these decisions, that's why we went through all 5 of these categories, is I wanted you to know and understand how each decision that you make directly affects your credit score and how it does, so that when you make those decisions, you can kind of expect a dip or you can expect it to go up. One reason that getting a new account and willing to risk that sudden drop in your history is worth it is if you get that account and you increase your utilization ratio, because it's obviously worth the 30% instead of the 10 to 15. So the added weight of that bigger event will make sure that your score actually goes up. It may not go up as high because of the way that that math formula works. So keep that stuff in mind. This one's not going to be a very long video today, mainly because this is the smallest category in which your credit is figured. It's again 10% or 55 points on the FICO 8 scoring system. Don't do rate shopping. Don't go through and just start applying for things. Make sure that when you get things, a new card that you're wanting to apply for, you understand the prerequisites. You understand what you could possibly be looking for. If you have mediocre to bad credit, don't go applying for Discover. Don't apply for American Express and Capital One. You want to get something like a secured credit card, which we've already discussed, because they're not going to get that hard pull. They're going to just give you the card, and it's going to be something that you may give them $200 in advance, and you're just paying in front of. And then they will switch that over to an unsecured card, which is the traditional card, after you show them that you're responsible. But that's not going to give you any new hard credit pulls, and that's going to allow you to truly build your credit, which is why we use those systems. They're in place for a specific reason. It may be an inconvenience because you have to pay the money ahead of time, but that's just the cost of doing business and the cost of growing and building that credit. So later you'll be able to qualify for those rewards cards, qualify for fuel miles, all kinds of different points that you get cash back that aren't going to be afforded to you when you first started. You have to work your way into that. You have to understand the process and make the process work for you. So everybody have a great Monday. Remember, God loves you, so do I. And we'll see you guys next week with a whole new series.